Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. That's good and loud. Uh, November 7th Town Council meeting to order. If you'll join me in standing and taking the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll continue standing for the invocation, Pastor Gene Wilkins.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we thank you for this day and for the people here who care so much for this island. We thank you for the mayor, town council, and town staff who work so hard to keep Hilton Head the wonderful place it is. Please bless the council's work and deliberations. Help everyone in this room to be wise, thoughtful, patient, and compassionate. Help us to always be mindful of those who have less, those who lack food, who lack housing, who lack security, who lack hope. We pray for the courage to do what is right and good for all citizens of Hilton Head. May we put the interests of others above our own. May we act with love for the common good. May we be good neighbors, recognizing your image in every person. In God's name we pray. Amen.
Pastor June. Mr. Orlando, do we have any adjustments to today's agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, not seeing any. Can I get a motion to approve?
To approve the agenda.
Okay. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion is moved. Next, we need approval of the minutes from the meeting of October 7th, 2023. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move the minutes for October 17th, 2023 as submitted.
Second by Mr. Alfred. Is there raise your right hand to vote, please, to approve? Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Orlando, do you have a report for us this afternoon?
I have an introduction, actually. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Good afternoon, members of the public. While not in the script, we do have a new generation baby in our audience, Mr. Barnwell's grandbaby with great-grandbaby. And so I do want to say hi. If there's a Zendaya sighting, we miss you and hello. As part of the script, I am very pleased to introduce Mr. Thomas Boxley. Hello, Thomas. Do you want to stand so we can say hello to you and introduce ourselves to you as well? Thomas is our executive director of our Gullah Geechee Historic Neighborhoods Community Development Corp. Came in from Tulsa, Oklahoma, as where he's originally from, just a few days ago. Thomas has more than 20 years of community development experience and spans a variety of sectors from education and healthcare. Most recently, Thomas was the director of school operations at the KIPP Tulsa University, which is a prep high school, and Thomas had a lot of involvement with the development and successful build out of that new school. And then Thomas also worked for Oklahoma University as an inclusion officer, clinic manager, outreach liaison for the University of Oklahoma physicians in Tulsa, and is here. He is our very first exec director of the towns and the communities Community Development Corporation, and we couldn't be more pleased to have you. Welcome. For now, sir, that's all.
Okay. So now I'd like to present a proclamation and take a moment to invite some individuals up. Seafood on the docks, if you'll please come up. Barbara Bryan Russell, granddaughter of the late Eddie Bryan. Richard Mitchell, Retz Garnowitz with the Coastal Discovery Museum. Jean Frew, Executive Director of Outside Foundation, along with J.C. McCune and Brittany Willard of Outside Hilton Head. Ray Craver, Island Recreation Association. Leah Arnold, Director and Coordinator of Hilton Head Island Oyster Festival. Mr. Thomas Barnwell, Hilton Head Fishing Co-op. And then there's some other individuals that we've asked to be here that were not able to be here today, and that is Larry Toomer, Barbara and Tanya Hudson's from Benny Hudson's, and Jerome Bryant. So I'm going to read. Want to have to come over this way?
Go ahead.
So this is in recognition of Hilton Head Island Oyster Month. Whereas South Carolina is renowned for its valuable and productive coastal ecosystem, which provides important marine and marshland environments with food, environmental sustainability, water filtering capacity, and fish habitat, among many other important attributes, and each oyster can filter approximately 50 gallons of water per day, thereby helping to clean 14,676,753,020 gallons of water each year. And whereas South Carolina's coastline is home to intricate waterways, including 20% of all salt marshes on the East Coast, and when salt and fresh water come together in these estuaries, they create an optimal natural environment for the growth of oysters, the foundation of this complex coastal ecosystem. And whereas the importance of oysters to our community dates back several thousand years, when some of North America's earliest inhabitants constructed shell rings using oyster shells from Florida to North Carolina, with over a dozen of these shell rings being located here on Hilton Head Island. And whereas it is estimated that oyster production in South Carolina generates $8.7 million annually in economic impact and creates 130 jobs across the state. And due to its importance from an environmental, agricultural, and economic standpoint, the oyster should be celebrated for its significant contributions to the overall health and enjoyment of the Hilton Head Island community. And whereas the town would like to join in celebration with many of our local oyster growers and harvesters, seafood restaurants, seafood retail markets, recreational outfitters, conservation organizations, education organizations, seafood festivals, and many others in recognizing these significant contributions by declaring this month of November to be Hilton Head Island Oyster Month, and commend its observance to all residents and tourists and visitors. So thank you very much, and thank you all for what you do to mean for our local ecosystems and our waterways with your protection and servicing of oysters. And Mr. Barnwell, I think you asked to say a comment as well. Come on up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll make this very brief for the record. My name is Thomas C. Barnwell, Jr. I am a native, fourth-generation native of Hilton Head Island. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, as well as town manager, staff, for your work in allowing this presentation to happen here today. On behalf of the many who are deceased members of the former Hilton Head Island Fishing Cooperative, I am the last living member of the original organization. It was 53 years ago that BASF chemical plant had plans to locate at Victoria Bluff in Bluffton, South Carolina. The co-op joined partnership with developers as well as Ocean Lake and Fish, Blue Channels, to file a lawsuit to stop the company in a district court suit, and other companies on Hilton Head joined the lawsuit after public pressure. Then the 777-mile trip was made from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, to Washington, D.C. on a shrimp boat called the Captain Dave to deliver 25-pound of shrimp to Secretary Hickel, along with many thousand signatures from residents throughout the region. Had that plant been allowed to locate on the river of Victoria Bluff, it would have polluted the waters in this area the same as it did in the Texas area. It is not a co-op now. We don't have a co-op, but we still have opportunities to develop our land in the area, in the Gullah community. And there are many families that still trying to grow businesses. We would like to mention specifically a special thanks to Mr. Thomas Broccoli, who is the now new town CDC director. This community is still in the process of finding new crops. The new crop is called businesses. It is extremely important for us to do all we can to welcome this person in order that we can do the adequate financing, planning for the new crop to grow, along with additional help from throughout the region for us to be progressive in the future. Thank you very much for allowing me to make those
Thank you,
comments.
Mr. Farmer.
Yeah, we want to get one out front too, so after, if everybody can let me do that, that'd be great.
Thank you all for being here today as well. Next, we're going to move on to Mr. Andrew Davis to a Marketing Communication Quarterly Update.
I have a problem because I think my speech is shorter than Thomas Boxley's resume, so that's the only issue. I promise, Kim, you can put me on the clock only 3 minutes. I promise you don't need to seat anybody anytime, so I'll be okay. Haven't been yet a quarter since I've been here, so I have about 17 cents worth of information for everybody out there. So in case you forgot, it was this quarter, 360-40 picnic went off very well, including the appearance of the governor alongside our town leaders and former mayors, not to mention the concert later on, where we could see a few people on the dais enjoying the both music and festivities. Memorial Day, the September 11th events, the Hilton Head Fire were both well attended and covered by the news stations and newspapers. The North Point Workforce Housing announcement brought out multiple media outlets, gathered a series of stories, all spotlighting the efforts to deal with this growing issue. Those were stories that went generally within the region, if not nationally. We started what hopefully will be a new tradition as well with a breast cancer free check event in partnership with Beaufort Memorial, and also partnered with Hopeful Horizons to place awareness posters in bathrooms and town parks to help victims potentially find help. Now, both of these, of course, are vital to making sure the citizens of our town know we offer services or help for anyone who is in need. We've gotten more than 36 TV stories in 3 months on everything from workforce housing to parks improvement to the adaptive traffic signals to our events, including Crescendo, which has been a great success for everybody so far. Both the Island Packet and Post and Courier have also done features on island activities and plans for the future. I have to say that my team's been absolutely amazing since I've been here. They're knocking out dozens of news releases, maps, presentations, a little bit of everything for everybody. We've added a lot more video to our repertoire, both on social media and otherwise, along with sending things directly to the TV stations so they can get it in not just one, but all 3 of them at any point in time. Social media, including a series on breast cancer information, was out there, domestic violence information, and we, as well as victims in both cases, and a spotlight as well on Gullah Geechee Awareness Month. Next up, well, we have posted this week about some of the amazing veterans right here that we have working for the town as part of the week-long celebration leading up to our Veterans Day celebration on Saturday. Not done yet. We've got Lantern Parade, Christmas and Hanukkah celebrations. Of course, Santa will be here, just in case you guys were wondering. As part of the week-long celebration from here on, we're going to make sure that the naughty and nice children all get what they deserve. Hopefully there are no naughty ones anywhere here. At least one's not here, so. In the coming year, we also hope to work with our Spanish-speaking population to make sure they get the information about town events and services they need as well in a language they understand better. We're hoping to partner with one of the local news agencies that does Spanish-speaking to make that happen. We're also planning a podcast to start in January to spotlight town events, also having some fun at the same time, hopefully, and working on better items to give out to the public and dignitaries at all town events so they get something a little special that says Hilton Head Island. In closing, the goal is simply to be proactive, to get in front of some of these events, these stories, and these projects to make sure we can all communicate them properly. I told you I'd be done in 3 minutes or less.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we'll have a, excuse me, community development update from Mr. Sean Cullen, Assistant Town Manager, Community Development. There's water. Oh.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Mr. Orlando. How do you follow Andrew Davis? I'm gonna go off script, and I think I'm gonna do the sports or the weather. Isn't that what normally follows, Andrews? I will not be 3 minutes, I'm sorry. But I'm here, and I'm thankful for the opportunity that Mark and the mayor have given me to give an update on activities that the Community Development Department has been engaged in, accomplishments that we've made, and come here in the near future. So number one, end-to-end analysis, the independent study that Town Council supported, creating an advisory committee to help guide the work, a scope of work to bring on a consultant that's been executed, was executed on October 13th with a Lockmuller group to perform the agreed upon scope of work. The Lockmuller group helps communities with data and most accurate forecasting tools available. They've been in business over 40 years. And they've addressed wide in road, traffic, structural, environmental, and water resource design. We held a kickoff meeting last Friday, November 3rd, with the advisory committee to go through the program and to set expectations and to begin in earnest to work with the consultant. It will include an end-to-end analysis of impacts and implications from the mainland to Sea Pine Circle on the Cross Island route and to Hooping Crane Indigo Run Drive on the business route. We should have it in the beginning of Q2 of 2024. The study will include incorporate the data from the adaptive traffic signals, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes, but that was an important element, as is to assess the detailed impacts and mitigation opportunities throughout the entire corridor, through the Stoney community, again, all the way down to Sea Pines Circle. So I'm happy to report the progress on that element. Next, LMO, code writer, sponsors the RFQ for a high caliber code writer on October 23rd. Our selection team will evaluate proposals by the end of this week. We are targeting the week of November 27th to have in-person interviews with finalists with an award recommendation from the selection team on the top firm, the town manager, by December 4th. We expect contract negotiation to take a couple of weeks and have contract by December 18th. And we'll share information before end of year, but a kickoff meeting in January of 2024. Next, the resilience plan. Next steps and schedule. FQ that was submitted. We've got 2 finalists that have been interviewed. We think that both firms have unique qualifications and capabilities. And we've talked to them late last week and early today about partnering up to create a more robust and meaningful collaborative effort to do a SWOT related to resilience and then come up with creative ideas to be able to execute. With that, the same thing, award recommendation to town manager by November 17th and contract negotiation and execution by December 8th. So we're happy about that progress. Those are 3 key large lifts with consultants to provide meaningful information consistent with our plans, strategic action plan, and town council's direction. So I'm happy that we're making good progress there. I'm going to jump into a couple of programs that council created a few years ago, the Home Safe and Repair Program. With that program that started a little over 2 years ago, we've had 118 applications come through. 90 of those applications have been approved. We've been able to execute 12 projects to date and have been completed. 12 more are under contract. An additional 8 are under pending final contractor quotes. Funds spent to date are $390,470 out of a total of 600. Additional estimates for the quotes, for the projects where we're expecting additional quotes, another 135,000, which would leave us with funds remaining of about $75,000. That program has about a $15,000 cap, so about 5 more projects and 58 more approved applications. So we can do the math here, but I think it's been successful and additional funding there could be considered. Lateral sewer connection. were created at the same time, initial tranche from ARPA money, an additional allocation in the last year. We've had 32 applications for that program. 19 completed connections have been made. Additional 8 connections are under contract, and we have 8 additional qualified applications remaining. A total of $100,000 per year for 3 years. For $300,000, we've spent $299,554, leaving $446 in that account. 2 were approved this week, which brought that total down to 446 available. Again, so very successful program, positive from Deepwell and the PSD and our partnerships there, and then look to advance that program in the future. I want to provide an update on some recruitment. We've had a chief housing officer finalist. We had another one here yesterday, very positive engagement, and we are extending a verbal offer today, followed by a written offer tomorrow. Mark signed it, so we will extend that offer, and we're very optimistic at the talent that we'd be able to acquire and bring on board and help our capacity and capabilities. Chief Environmental Officer, we have an interview with a finalist who we think is a strong candidate on Thursday this week, on November 9th. And if all goes well, we would hope to make an extension of an offer to that candidate as well. So making good progress there. CIP complete projects. Andrew talked about all of the communications that they're providing. Some of it is about projects that are complete or nearly complete. But I want to share and celebrate with town council, the town manager, my team, and the community, the delivery of the Adriana courts, the pickleball courts there. We have heard nothing but positive comments and feedback, additional emails coming in today, and the delivery of 6 top quality pickleball courts. Now that the town has taken complete ownership of that property with the manager and council support, we've delivered, I think, a new expectation for quality. Our project manager, who we had lunch with today, said when he shows up, the people say, "Hey, there's the project manager," so he thinks he's king of Adriana courts out there, which is great. Woodhaven Lane pathway, we're very close to that. Unfortunately, Spectrum did a boring and they hit a water main and took out a small section of the completed pathway, or we would be a little closer. Some of the growth has to occur back in the drainage channel, but we're just a few weeks away from sign off there. We had a message from a woman, voicemail, thanking the town for the delivery of that pathway, and she monitored every day and was impressed with the quality of the outcome and also the hard work that went into that pathway. So making a difference, even if it's a small pathway segment to serve the community. Follyfield Boardwalk and Park upgrade, we're getting very close to reopening that. The boardwalk is done, but during the park closure, which we announced through November 17th, took an opportunity to look at the bathrooms, the shower towers, the area in and around the vegetation, invasive species, and I think it'll be very well received. Having visited the site a few times in the last couple of weeks, I'm proud of what the team has delivered, and we hope that we reopen this week. I need it McElwee proofed, right, Brian? He'll stamp it, and we'll make sure that council's aware of that. We did notify surrounding properties and property managers about the impact a little late in Follyfield. For Dreesen, which we're getting ready to transition to here as early as November 20th, we made sure that messaging went out, more than 200 direct mailers to property owners and property managers to let them know the impact and implications of us moving to Dreesen and having that same positive impact and upgrade to that. So I hope we can all celebrate Follyfield, and I hope you're as excited as I am. Adaptive traffic signal system. I should have brought another water up here, Mayor. So the town is very near the end of a very meaningful, important project to upfit all 25 traffic signals on the island with this adaptive traffic signal technology. So it includes William Hilton Parkway, Palmetto Bay Road, Pope Avenue. There's a combined more than 1 million vehicles that go through all of those intersections in a day. Think about all those activities and turning movements. And so this technology is used to change and adapt timing of signals based on real traffic demand. And we got a text from our one key staff that's involved in the project that said they made it from Arrow Road off Island with only hit one red light. I only had one response, was wow. And then I drove through the corridor and pretty much simulated that. So I think we're seeing some positive improvements there. Not only did we upfit the signals with this adaptive technology, we also increased the grounding capability. The power strips in the cabinets were undersized and didn't meet the right specifications. So we were susceptible to some issues with some weather events, and we've mitigated that condition so that we are much more resilient with our adaptive traffic signal technology. We'll continue to monitor it. The system started to go live in our signals on November 1st, and we'll continue to learn for the next few weeks until that system is fully integrated, and we can make some final adjustments to that as needed. I'll skip through the next 3 pages about the additional details on the adaptive if that's good for you. But I would just talk about the goals: reduce congestion, travel times, intersection delays, number of stops on arterials, reduce emissions and fuel consumption, improve safety corridor for bicycle and pedestrians, as well as there's detection systems that accurately account for those movements as well in the system. Provide real-time communication throughout the entire system, and better coordination with public agencies to look at regional-wide approach if the county moves forward with additional upfit for signals further out to 95, then we have a much better regional system as well. All right, Jonesville Pathway. This project was budgeted in the town CIP in 2023, started with preliminary planning in January, including a feasibility assessment, which was complete in March of 2023. Based on that feasibility, we ordered a survey of the area in May. It was completed in July 2023. The project was again budgeted in the current town CIP fiscal 2024 for design, permitting, and easement acquisition. We currently plan to advance the design beginning in January. And then there's a sequence of steps that we need to take from executing that initial design through project completion, design, permitting, acquisition, cost estimation, and construction to complete the pathway installation. So we're on track. We're moving that along. Next step we'll take here after the first of the year, and we will move to advance that through that process and bring that forward in upcoming CIP as well. Dirt road paving updates. Pinefield Road, Freddy's Way, Alice Perry Drive, Mitchellville Road, Alfred Lane are all active in our system. Pinefield Road, we had 100% participation until we were ready to get to the acquisition phase, and some owners had some additional requests. So we're notifying all the owners of that request to see if we can get that back on track and move that forward. Freddy's Way, we received the OCRM survey last week, and Thomas & Hutton is working to verify and finalize the plans for that dirt road paving project. Alice Perry Drive, we need some additional survey near Fish Hall intersection, and surveyors plan to be on site this week or early next to take those next steps with that project. Mitchellville Road, there was a final question about easement and stormwater impacts to property owner. And so with that, we'll work to finalize plans and the arrangement for land donation along Mitchellville Road. And then Alfred Lane, we'll engage with the design team once our new on-call contractors, which will be here very shortly, are on board and are selected. Is this helpful? I'm about halfway done. SWA of solid waste and recycling. We've been actively working with a consultant for the past few months on this. There's the RFQ and response had a work program of 8 tasks. We completed the kickoff meeting, gathering and reviewing relevant data, We've engaged in the SWA of current recycling and solid waste on Hilton Head. We have a draft presentation complete on that task 3. We're evaluating options for recycling and solid waste management. And then we've got a schedule to bring this forward for committee for initial discussion in December, and complete the work and draft final report in early 2024 to bring to council. Islanders Beach Park. One thing is we installed some new fans inside the pavilions here recently, was very well received. An idea from an area resident to increase the comfortability in the ADA pavilion that we built and the other pavilion. So two fans were installed in each of those pavilions. But on Islanders, the bigger picture, in April 2023, council approved the master plan with the emphasis on building the central pathway and the raised crosswalk on Folly Field. In May, we had the strategic meeting with consultants to rework the phasing. Town council approved the plan concept showing separate parking for the metered spaces. Some internal conversation held about adding this to phase 1, but not initiated in phase 1. We are moving forward with the center walkway to have that complete for the current beach season, and then the rest design build contract to execute the larger phase and approved master plan that council adopted to deliver that for the visitor season in 2025. Mitchellville Freedom Park within the CIP. The town will be providing improvements to the drive aisle parking area and ADA compliance. We're currently awaiting SHPO permit, State History Preservation Office permit about geotechnical soil borings. We've submitted the coastal zone permit, and on July 20th, the permitting there is taking a while, sometimes 6 to 9 months to get that. But we're also coordinating with Archaeological Phase 1 survey with Ahmad Ward, the Executive Director of Mitchellville. So we are advancing that project. Mid-Island Phase 1 contract amendment was fully executed October 3rd. Project kickoff is scheduled with MKSK, our consultant, on November 14th. Phase 1 focuses on grading, removal of invasive species, trails, water body interconnections, and restoration and habitat restoration. This will be a commitment to ecology and restoration, and it will include the trails and trails, pathways, and restroom facilities in this phase 1. Town Hall landscaping. I hope that you've noticed coming into Town Hall some improvements that have happened here. Town Hall landscaping completed in October. Town Hall entrance, irrigation and landscaping. We've added a significant amount of landscaping, sod, and irrigation here at Town Hall. One key component is the xeriscape gardening in the lagoon, behind where council chambers is, was restored to improve its function. About 60 dump truck loads of sediment that have built up over 40 years were removed from that facility, and so now it's functioning much better. There's additional amenities out here in what we call the back courtyard, with seating areas and activities, and staff has been taking advantage of holding discussions and meetings out there, and I think it's been well received. We spend an awful lot of time in this facility and our campus, and a commitment to our staff and quality and walking the talk here, right? We expect high quality, and we're demonstrating that here in our own backyard. I'm almost done. Okay. The stormwater component that I wanted to really cover was a Lawton pump station. We have worked with Sea Pines and CSA to make sure that we are ready for any storm event. There's three pumps and 5 control gates that impact a significant portion, about a quarter of the south end of the island from a stormwater standpoint. We have ordered all 3 new pumps. 2 will be here in February with installation in advance of the next hurricane season. And so we've coordinated very well with that community to provide some assurance that we're committed to drainage and improvements and resiliency going forward. Manager, whew. One, don't follow Andrew Davis. And next time, Andrew, I'm gonna help me keep this to 3 minutes. How's that?
Well, Sean, I gotta say that thank you for the report and everything that the staff has been doing, because that's a long list of grocery items that not only have been completed, but help make the community better. So thank you for all that, and I look forward to actually having more in the future. Any comments from council? Mr. Stanford?
Sean, I'm fascinated and pleased about the adaptive traffic signals. Short of having a full-blown traffic study, do we have any way to measure the impact of those signals once the system is fully implemented?
So there's an opportunity to collect data in real time. And so in the past where we've done traffic counts and have taken into account turning movements, we'll have the ability to have access to that information more regularly, right, in real time. And so we can track performance against the annual evaluation that we've done here in the past and see where we are improving the performance in the system.
People will appreciate it, certainly, if you can get from Seapine Circle out to cross the bridge in a quicker time than you have been in the past. And I hope there's some way we can measure that to show that success. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Becker?
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Sean, and thank you and your staff for all of the work that y'all have been doing. You're always patient with us, and we know that your time is valuable. Obviously, it's being well spent. Just to follow up on Glenn's question, those went live November 1st. They are currently starting to collect data, or is that to come?
Yeah, so they started to go live. We started at the south end. You know, we didn't want to start at Squire Pope Road and be the first one to go live, just knowing impact, right, implication for peak hour. So started on the south end and moved north. Yes, there's an ability for them, once they're calibrated and fully operational, to work together to help with performance. And yes, data would be available in the short term from the operations of the signals.
And the type of data that it's collecting, you mentioned traffic and turning is what we've collected over the past. So will we see a correlation between the amount of traffic coming through at what type of rate versus what we had before? Is that the ratio, or what is the type of data that we're collecting?
Yeah, I think we can certainly come back and provide a little bit more detail on the data collection and the capability capacity of that. I know right now for the next few weeks, so you know, I wouldn't expect data to come out tomorrow to be, hey, this is perfectly reliable. We need a couple few weeks, probably through the end of the month, to make sure that the system is talking to each other. We've worked out any kinks, that it's calibrating and communicating as a system, and then with that, see what outputs we can generate from the system compared to what we've done on an annual basis. I would love the opportunity at some point that maybe it's a community service and public safety type of discussion to look at the performance of the transportation system. And also how it might impact safety, right? And the entire system. Is it reducing crashes? Is it better with bike and ped conflict? So I think there's an opportunity to look at the benefits of this technology and the installation and the investment that we've made to improve conditions here.
Right, and all of that is important, and I'm thrilled if it comes to community service and public safety to be able to analyze those aspects of it. I'm thinking more in terms of the data collection and how it will be useful to the firm who's evaluating 278's study And this is one of several components that the county neglected to include in their review and is an important piece of what we expect to see come through the analysis, the study for the 278 project that the town is now involved in. And so that's the information that I'm looking for, how soon that data will be up and running so that it can be incorporated in a meaningful way, since I believe it's the anticipation of many that it will be substantial in terms of the overall impact and thought process down the road with regard to the bridge, et cetera. So I'll look for more information on that and be interested in hearing.
I can report that the advisory committee asked those same questions, and our consultant responded that they could, toward the end of the month, when we start to have data to share, that they could take that, and then as we get more and more data points, to use that to calibrate the modeling and help with the accuracy of modeling and projections. And so everyone seemed comfortable from the technical side on having that information here to support the end-to-end analysis.
Good, well, it's good to hear that the consultant is going to be including those missing elements that the county neglected. In terms of those comments, I've received several about the 278 meetings, and most of them have to do with the opportunity for our residents, who we've heard through other reports, how much we appreciate and we do when we get the positive feedback from them. And they, as a rule, like to be involved. They like to know that they're being heard. And what I've heard is there's been a less than an opportune time for folks to be able to stand up, ask questions, and make comments. And I know that at the beginning of meetings, that's generally taken care of with public comment. But oftentimes at the end of a meeting, after all of the information has been heard, some real more substantive questions come to mind that need to be asked. So I'm asking for an opportunity at the next meeting that public comment be allowed so that residents can participate, so that when we get to the end of this process, we can hear those types of thank yous. We felt involved. There are 10,000 plus people who felt this was important, a town that agreed, and I want to make sure that their voices aren't lost in the midst of all of it. So those are two things. Mid-Island Phase 1, when that's being done, while that work's being done, will the park pathways be closed down, or will there be access through the Mid-Island track?
I think it's unlikely that you'd have the whole park closed down at once. I think there's areas that would be in a construction phase, and other areas would be open from a pathway or movement through there.
And we'll hear more about that as it starts to, so that we're well notified if people are using it on a regular basis now for walking and jogging and whatever. And then the last thing I have on my list here is, you mentioned stormwater. And I know that there's always an emphasis on stormwater throughout the island to make sure that we control flooding, et cetera. And I think Tom Reeds, Councilman Reeds, was here before, and I wanted to say thank you to him because the county has come in to help in the Burke's Beach area that experiences flooding on a fairly regular basis. I'm wondering what point the town can get involved in trying to create a system so that the roads in the seaside and in that area no longer flood. I realize we're outside of the gates, and that's the reason I, as the representative of that area, is asking.
I think a big part of the resilience plan will look in the SWOT assessment is going to look at areas of vulnerability and high risk for flooding, where we should consider options, right? Whether it's investment, whether it's.
So generally speaking, those roads are county-owned, and thus the reason Councilman Reeds has been very helpful and supportive of the residents there. And we've talked about that, but I'm just wondering how the town too can participate in making stormwater a priority for those residents in that area. Thank you.
Other comments? Bryson.
Just quickly, thank you. And thank you to Mr. Cullen and also Mr. Davis for getting the word out on some other projects which involve the public. A lot of those projects you mentioned, and especially some new stormwater work right out here outside of our boundaries on Wexford Drive with folks coming and going from this area. And then also down in the Main Street area on that lagoon. So I think it's helpful to continue to notify the public about those so folks know what's going on. And I am excited to hear that we're looking at perhaps signing a contract on the resilience plan around November 17, I think you said. So I'm sure that as soon as that's signed, we could have some sort of announcement about that with maybe a little bit about scope of work and timing. The same thing, I think it'd be good to follow up on the Mid-Island track about the scope of work and the timing, so that questions such as Ms. Becker just raised about will the whole park be shut down, et cetera. So I think that'd be helpful when that work gets started. But otherwise, for the long list and accomplishments, and you know, I've heard accolades about the new pickleball courts. I'm excited to see that. Looks like quality work, and I know that we're going to continue to do quality work. So thank you for all that.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Cullen, thank you for the report. I guess this comment is more for the council. As Mr. Cullen has gone through this laundry list, he's mentioned 2 points that I think directly affect our initiatives when it comes to affordable housing. That's the Home Safe program and the sewer connection program. And he didn't do any exact math, but what I'm feeling is that at some point, we're going to start to run out of money there. We all know that that money came down from the feds. It's taken us a couple of years to sort of get ourselves going, but if we were to try to predict the future, I'm sure there's going to be a need for more funds because the demand is actually there. So I'm just making that a point of awareness for us as a council as we get into budget season. Thanks.
Great.
I was just going to say, Mr. Boxley's going to solve that problem, isn't he?
Berlin, any comment?
Yeah, it's great to see Andrew up here in person. I know you're just getting warmed up, and we cannot be more pleased to have you here with us. And Sean, and I think it's obvious, you know, to me, and I just want to make sure you hear me say this in front of everybody, is that Sean's just not reading the script. He knows the details. You can ask him any question about any topic on any day from any angle, and he doesn't have to always look back to the back of the room to find Brian McElwee, Missy Lewick, or Zenos Morris. He's got a great team. You're leading very well, and I can't say thank you enough.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Now we'll move on to general reports from town council. So real quickly, I'd just like to state that hopefully we get out of here in time. For those of you who haven't voted, we'll still have a chance to go and vote today. So it is an election day. So general reports from council. We'll start there from this side. Mr. Brown. Bryson.
2 things. First of all, Pastor June was here, but congratulations to Christ Lutheran Church celebrating 50 years and for the community services that they perform. I was happy to be there for their celebration. And then Crescendo has been fantastic and is still going on. And so I have just a couple reflections. I'll try to stay within 3 minutes. Crescendo cheers. As the music arose and the dancers flowed, where the stories were told in word and art and movement, our hearts were filled and our souls were lifted by the rise of Crescendo. From the time of dusk to the twinkling of the stars, when the sounds of the symphony filled the air, community came and filled the park. From the Broadway tunes to the 1812 overture, we heard the blending of voices, the rising of the instruments, the ringing of the bells, and a magnificent crescendo. From the sight, sound, and story of the Mitchellville Film Festival, to the comedy of Clue, to the sharing of Low Country reeds, to the emotions of the mountaintop, we experienced the breadth of feelings that only the art of storytelling can bring as we found new crescendos. In celebration of culture, we tasted the foods, felt the rhythm of the music, and admired the art at the Fish and Grits Festival, the annual Gullah Food Festival, and the Italian Heritage Festival, where the tastes and sounds filled us with more crescendos. From the jazz for all ages to the songwriter series, to the Broadway tenors, to the dance of the Nutcracker, to the many displays of art, and to the history, tours, and talks, there were and are countless Pashindas. As the celebration closes, at the end of the day, and as darkness arises and memories fade, lanterns and music will fill the air. Community will join in laughter and color to chase away the darkness and lead us to light, where we always find Pashinda.
Thank you. Mr. Ames.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to acknowledge and thank Natalie Harvey, who is not here, and the town staff, Mark Orlando, for putting together the Carolina Parakeet project down at Celebration Park. Why is that important to this community? Piggybacking on the oysters accommodation today, also loggerhead turtles, Carolina parakeet extinct because of loss of habitat. This community should be mindful at every step that it can, do our part individually and collectively to protect the habitat for the natural world. Thank you.
Becker, any general reports?
No, just a simple congratulations to everyone who was involved in Concours d'Elegance. It was, in my humble opinion, a tremendous success, as always, one of the top events here in Hilton Head, and I hope that anyone who hasn't yet experienced it makes sure that next time it's on their list of things to do. It's a great time, great event, and brings a lot back to the community. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stanford.
Nothing further, thank you.
Great. We'll move on to report of the Low Country Area Transportation Study. Mr. Stanford.
Yes, LATS had a meeting recently. Most of the efforts in LATS at this time have to do with improvement of the flow of traffic on Highway 170, where it intersects 278, heading towards Beaufort. There's going to be enormous growth in that area, and the Regional Transportation Authority is trying to promote better flow of traffic in that area. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Becker.
Comment on,
Yes.
at the recent meeting of the engineering consultants, Lockmuller, dealing with the end-to-end traffic study, there was mention that the Low Country Area Transportation Group in 2026 was going to study the possibility of another location of a second bridge to the mainland.
That has been added to the agenda for future consideration. It is just a point up there to look at in a couple of years.
Does that mean they actually will do it in a couple of years?
That's not in my control, I'm sorry. But we will certainly push that,
Yeah.
yes.
Good. That would be, I think, for the community, an extremely important step to take.
Ms. Becker, Low Country Council of Governments.
I don't have a report, but I concur with my colleague, Councilman Alford, on that second bridge consideration. Should be known if that is a reality as we're moving forward with our own end-to-end study. Thank you.
Ames.
Thank
County
you.
Airports.
That the terminal groundbreaking will occur this Thursday at 10 o'clock. The public is invited. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Stanford, back to you for Southern Low Country Regional Board.
Yes, the Southern Low Country Regional Board is contemplating issues for it to deal with in the coming year, which would include such things as waterway protection, dealing with abandoned boats, which is a growing issue, dealing with the education referendum on the ballot here today, education, transportation, recreation, housing, tourism, workforce training, safety and security, recycling, reports from the various utilities about capacity and so forth, resilience. So what's going to happen with these issues is the board is going to prioritize them in terms of what is most important to try to deal with them moving forward in a regional effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, Island Recreation Association.
No report, sir.
Okay. Back to Ms. Becker, Community Service and Public Safety Committee.
We have a meeting this coming Monday at 10 o'clock. All are invited. We welcome you and your public comments. I want to ask a question, though, if I may, on Mr. Stanford's report. The abandoned boats issue around the island was something that I recently had a lot of folks contacting me over, and I know I spoke to, I think, Mark, I spoke to you. Ellen, we may have spoken also. And there was, I understood that the town was going to be developing an ordinance so that we can participate.
I can answer that. The ordinance has been written. I'm working with the other mayors in the area to get them to sign on to that one as well. And that is something that we'll be bringing forth in the new year.
Okay, so we do have some activity on that. Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Ames, Public Planning.
Thank you. The Public Planning Committee will meet this Thursday exactly at the same time of the terminal groundbreaking, 10 o'clock. Thank you.
And
Which
Mr.
one are you
Brown.
going to go to?
Mr. Brown, report of the Finance Administration Committee.
F&A Committee will be meeting on next Tuesday, the 14th, in light of Thanksgiving on the 21st. So all that want to attend next Tuesday.
Thank you. Next, we'll go on to public comment. I'd like to remind our citizens that Section 2-5-70 of the town's code limits each person to 3 minutes when addressing town council. At the end of the 3 minutes, you are asked to conclude your comments. Please maintain a decorum suitable for the meeting and refrain from using any profane, abusive, or obscene language. If you have any materials you'd like to give to town council, please give them to the town clerk after you're finished speaking. Kimberly, do we have anybody signed up for today?
Yes, Gray Smith.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon, members of Town Council and Town Manager Orlando. Gray Smith, 11 Weilers Creek Way, Hilton Head Island. I was one of a number of Hilton Head Island residents who attended the initial public meeting of the 278 Corridor Advisory Committee with the traffic consultant, the Lockmuller Group. Many of us sat there not quite believing the direction the meeting took. For 4 years, residents of Hilton Head have called upon the Town Council to hire an independent traffic engineering consultant to utilize their expertise to make a completely separate analysis of the safety and peak traffic flow problems that exist on Hilton Head, and then come back and present the town with their best recommendations as to how to solve these pressing problems. The entire purpose of this effort was supposed to be that the consultant would not be influenced by what had gone before, nor constrained in any way as to what recommendations they may produce as a result of their research, measurements, and subsequent analysis. For whatever reason, that was not the instruction given to the consultant at Friday's meeting. The town presentation appeared to be heavily biased towards having the consultant look at prior research, and one member of the committee attempted to impose numerous constraints on the scope of the alternatives the consultant would be permitted to look at. It sounded exactly like the county's 3 attempts to force their consultants to rubber stamp the seriously flawed and unacceptable SCDOT proposal. This is not why our Hilton Head independent consultant was hired. We insist that Lockmuller Group be allowed to proceed with their truly independent study of any and all facts surrounding the 278 corridor project, unencumbered by any further constraints imposed by any member of the Hilton Head town government. Secondly, we, the residents, reserve our First Amendment right to communicate directly with the hired consultant at any time and in any manner in which we see fit. It is our tax dollars that are paying for the consultant. We reject the demand that all communications with the consultant are filtered through the advisory committee. Thirdly, at the end of the meeting, there were at least 4 resident members of the audience who raised their hands, clearly communicating they would like to add their comments as to what had transpired during the meeting, or to have their questions addressed. The mayor, as the self-proclaimed person in charge of the committee, banged down his gavel and declared the meeting adjourned so as to purposely preclude any public comments at a public meeting. We find this conduct totally objectionable and request that at ensuing meetings, the public be given the opportunity to voice our questions, opinions, and concerns. This is likely the single most impactful event of this decade for all of the residents of Hilton Head Island. We should have a voice in this project as the independent study proceeds. I have one more 2 sentences. Thank you for indulging me. Fourthly and finally, there were a number of residents who could not attend the meeting being out of town or otherwise constrained from attending. One more. For these residents, we ask that all further advisory committee meetings be
ask you
videotaped,
to
just
sit
like
down,
the other
Smith.
town public meetings are,
Need to
and
ask
made
you to sit
available
down.
immediately for our residents to view on a timely basis.
Please finish. I will make a comment that there was a section on the agenda that did allow for public comment. Actually, do we have anybody else signed up to speak?
Prior to just
Alan Wolf.
Wolf.
Mayor Perry, Town Council, thank you for having me. I'm pleased to report on behalf of the Coastal Community Development Corporation that we have continued to position ourselves for additional purchases of housing on Hilton Head Island for workforce rentals. We have secured now over $1.25 million in donations and altruistic capital from community members for down payments and have a local bank prepared to provide mortgages on the purchases for up to 60% of the purchase price. We have evaluated over 20 properties in the last 3 weeks in communities across the island for feasibility in our model. We will be extending invitations to all council members who might care to join us in our evaluation process. Unfortunately, we have been struck by the conditions of some of the properties in terms of overcrowding, overall unit condition, and the associated prices for those units that workers are paying. It has firmed our resolve to push forward quickly to preserve and create quality housing for the workers in our community. I do fear that the issue is perhaps worse than any of us realized. And to steal a line from the former Island Packet article, the propping up of paradise is indeed at a crisis point. Our recent grant request of $600,000 is currently not on the agenda for review. We have had positive feedback from the town, as well as Senator Davis at the state level, around funding sources such as ATAX and South Carolina Housing Trust Funds. We're actively completing an application for the South Carolina Housing Trust Fund Supportive Rental Housing Program, but expect that any funding from either there or the ATAX funds is a minimum 6 months out. I would just encourage that the council continue to find a path forward in granting the requested funds so we can continue to make an immediate impact in this challenging time for our workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Kimberly.
Robert Braun Frickin.
Robert. Okay, nobody's standing up.
Richard Beasy.
Good afternoon, members of the Town Council. Christy Hall, Secretary of Transportation for the state of South Carolina, has made it clear that the 278 corridor project is a Hilton Head project, and that if the residents of Hilton Head do not want it or do not approve of it, it will not get done, period. Translation, we have the final say, not the county, not the state. Makes a lot of sense. Hilton Head is the location that is most affected by this project, and it's up to us to decide whether we want an 11-lane, single-slab aircraft carrier deck to be the entrance to our island. And yet Mayor Perry informed our independent traffic consultant last Friday that, and I quote, "The county has already decided that there will be a 6-lane bridge, presenting it as a fait accompli." What the mayor incorrectly represented as a 6-lane bridge is, as we all know, an 11-lane, single slab span that's out of scale and totally unacceptable, or at least should be, to the residents of this island. When one of the members of the Citizens Advisory Committee attempted to push back and say that that's not true, it's not the county's decision to make, the mayor just shut the conversation down. So much for transparency and freedom of speech. The bridge should not be accepted as a done deal. Citizens, as you heard earlier from Mr. Smith, wanted to speak at the meeting, but were shut down when the mayor banged his gavel down and abruptly ended the meeting. So much for transparency. It's clear to me that the mayor and the town staff are trying to control this first ever independent study and steer it in the direction of the county rubber stamp of the state DOT plan. Mr. Mayor, why would you seek to impose major limitations on the consultant at the very first meeting with the Citizens Advisory Committee? You are wrong to do so. And by the way, who elected you as chairman of the Citizens Advisory Committee? No one did. You took the gavel and ran with it, and you were wrong to do so. The outcome of this project, the bridge and the 278 corridor, is the most consequential project in the town's history. And 3 sham studies commissioned by the county council, or after 3 sham studies, citizens need an independent study. So it's time to let the consultant do his job. Tell us the best alternatives for fixing our current traffic mess and explore all options without political interference. Thank you.
Additional
Sandy
comments?
West.
Pardon?
Sandy West.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Orlando Town Council members. We have known for quite some time that the ever-growing housing crisis for our community. And a year ago, the framework was developed and adopted by the town, and some progress has been made to meet the goals outlined in that framework. And for that, I am very appreciative. I'm here today to tell you a story that, in my view, is heartbreaking. The Coastal Community Development Corporation, a nonprofit focused on affordable housing, requested $600,000 from the town to support the purchase of properties appropriate for needed affordable housing. The Town Finance Committee agreed unanimously and forwarded this request to the Town Council. A first reading was conducted, a second was planned, and now nothing has happened, and it appears that it has died. Some time ago, I strongly suggested of the 15 priorities the town outlined, housing needed to be number 1 because it is the only priority that literally threatens the health and survival of our community. A fellow Long Cove member, David Wetmore, a community champion, a philanthropist, and a member of the CCDC, took it upon himself to raise commitments of $1 million in Long Cove. That's one citizen that was able to raise $1 million. Commitments. He has worked tirelessly and has put his own reputation on the line, believing that, as we all did, that the town would do the right thing and approve and support the $600,000 request that was on the path to approval. The town spent $4 million to purchase the Wild Wing Cafe so we could potentially have some additional amenities adjacent to the park and a parking lot, which are important things. But using that as an example, we need a long-term financial plan from the town focused on housing. An example of what is happening in the community is an experience my husband had in the last few days. He had a medical issue. We went to the emergency room and they treated him and kept him in the emergency room for 2.5 days and nights without a private toilet, shower, or window. The reason given was that they had rooms available on the regular floors, but there were no nurses to care for the patients. His nurse did say that people cannot afford to live here, and that is a big part of the problem. You set aside $3.2 million for housing. North Point is to get $1 million with a preferred partner that has not shown a concrete design or contract. Why are you sitting on the money that is designated for housing and available to help solve this issue? CCDC has purchased 3 units for workers, and they now have 2 families of 4 and a single person. 9 people have a new home on the island. They are making progress and they need your help. They've identified many units that can be purchased with your additional support. I want accountability and answers to these questions. I fear the next crisis will be a healthcare issue, and we don't need 2 crises at the same time. I'm appreciative of this administration and of your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. West.
Daniel Anthony.
Mayor, if I may, before the next speaker comes, well, you got an opportunity to comment with one speaker said something.
Council, if council wants to give you an opportunity to speak, then.
I wanted to make a comment that to Mrs. West and those who are interested, that we have received a letter from the CEO of the hospital outlining some opportunities for housing that the hospital is engaged in, and that we are thankful for that private entity taking that step towards helping out with the solutions that you're referring to.
Right. Mr. Anthony?
Daniel Anthony, I live on Jonesville Road. I'll be brief. I know it's getting late and apparently some people haven't allocated their time to vote today, so that being me. But I know you got Jonesville Road coming up in executive session, so just let me say, don't do anything silly, all right? Do what's in the best interest of Jonesville Road, because if you don't, I'm going to be hammering on you. So just save me the stress, all right? Let me go home and have a drink and chill out and know that everything's cool. All right, that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Alex Cruden.
Alex Cruden. I live in Sea Pines. And I'm here to say a few things about one of the projects, the many projects that Mr. Colvin referred to, the new pickleball courts off Adriana Lane. They're wonderful. I'm here to just thank all of you who supported this, who raised the questions, who made sure the money was there, who got the staff of the town motivated for this. And it's really struck me how beautiful as well as playable these courts are. When this town does something, it does it right. And I really want to congratulate, and I speak for the 700 plus members of the Hilton Head Island Pickleball Club, the thousands of people who are going to come and play on this jewel of an installation in Ward 1 near the entrance to our island. It's just a terrific thing, and everybody involved should take pride in this, because it's 6 courts, true, but these are 6 wonderful courts of the highest quality. And I just wanted to speak for all of us who've been working toward this, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cruden.
Thank you, Alex.
That's all we have.
Oh, we have signed up? Okay. So, moving on to workshop items. Receive discussion. Let's see, we'll now turn to the presentation with Josh Gruber and Mr. Jim Fluker, who will review the recommendations made by the committee after the hearings to review application for ATAX funds.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Orlando. As you know, the town receives state accommodation taxes, and as is required by statute, before the town can expend those funds, we have to form an advisory committee who takes and provides information to council and recommendations on how those funds are used. Over the last couple of months, the committee has met multiple times, both as an organization and with every applicant that you see on the list that is before you this evening, to review in depth with them what they're asking for, how those funds will be used, to ultimately make you a recommendation. And so in just a second, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Fluker, the chairman of the committee, but wanted to let you know that our intent was to present this information to you tonight with the goal of then coming back at the next meeting to have discussion and action on this item. And with teeing that up, I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Fluker.
Thank you, Mr. Gruber. Yes, the committee met on the October the 12th and 19th and actually took public comments and from the applicants and from the public in general. On October 30th, we met as a group to make the following recommendation, which has been provided to council today as attachment number 1. We had over $4.7 million of requests, and by 39 applicants for 41 different projects. The report would outline that of those applications and organizations, we did approve in full 31 applications in 29 organizations. Some others, which I would argue we funded as fully as we could based on PERC limitations, 7 groups received partial funding, and 3 groups received no funding whatsoever. That's all outlined basically in the report that you have in front of you. If you have any questions specifically on any of those, I'm willing to answer those at this time.
Questions?
Yes, I was able to be at the committee's thorough consideration of the list and listened to it. I also sat in on a couple of other meetings, and they do a very thorough job at looking at a lot of applications and looking at a lot of detailed information. I think it might be helpful.
Sorry.
Right? Hey.
Sorry, I went over my 3 minutes.
No worries. No. I will not take any offense, nor should you, Mr. Flicker. At any rate, I think it would be helpful, I know you summarized it, but I think it might be helpful for especially some of the applicants who may be here who either didn't receive full funding or didn't receive any funding, to know a little bit more about it other than it wasn't Turk-based. And I think most of the applicants know what Turk requirements are. But I think for some that didn't receive any funding, and then the one that's listed as University of South Carolina, it's kind of odd to see the University of South Carolina coming and asking the town for money through the ATAX funds. But I think it might be good to explain a little bit more about those. Helpful.
Well, in particular, as I look at the one from the University of South Carolina, the committee determined that of the $83,000 request, that we really could only show that 2,000 of that, which was signage at the site, would lead to tourism. The rest of that grant was for educational matters that would be in classrooms, and for a virtual reality thing, which I believe would also be in classrooms. And then part of that was also an overhead charge that the university charges as well for every project. And we didn't think that that was an appropriate use of ATAX funding, nor would having the professors that are already on staff at the university, that we pay for their time as well. So of the 83,000, we thought that only 2,000 of that could be directly led back to tourism.
And I think it'd be helpful for folks to know the location that we're talking about. And we're not sending money to Columbia, South Carolina, so.
No, this was University of South Carolina, Beaufort, and it would have been for a location that's right off of Gumtree Road here, the historic area off Gumtree Road on the island.
And that's the Tabby structure on Mr. Barnwell's property, is that correct?
That's correct.
So anyhow, I think it warrants a little more discussion, and I'm not the one to do it. I didn't see the application, but I think it's certainly, I have no idea whether or not it's the appropriate amount, but I know there were a lot of questions the committee had about it, and I think the more information we have about it, the better we'll be at helping the applicant and helping us on our final decision.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, my question is for Mr. Gruber. But first, I'd like to thank Mr. Fluke and the committee for all of your deliberation and being very conscious of where we are by ATAX monies. When we're looking at some of these variances as far as what the committee recommends in the request, we see that some of these variances are based on the Turk requirements. And I just want to know, did the staff do the calculations on the Turk to get us to this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's it.
And we also review that, and that's based on the budget as provided by the applicant. So that's one of the things we've told the applicants, is to be very precise about how we've tried to make it very clear that the numbers that they put in their application, whether it be number of tourists, their budget items, the percentage of which Turk areas they're going for, categories, that they try to be as precise as possible, because that's what we're basing those numbers on. And so when they do their budget, they need to do things, especially since number one, which is promotions and advertisements. That's 100% reimbursable under Turk requirements. So no matter what their tourist numbers are, that's 100%. Well, make sure that they put it out there, that number, and make that as much as their budget will allow, and not slide it into other categories, events, public service, or public, accommodations needs like the police and things like that, because those are only reimbursable to the extent of their tourist numbers. So as much as they can put into promotion and advertisement is 100% reimbursable.
Mr. Mayor, I'm making an assumption that when this is on agenda for us to take a vote, that within the packet, the actual applications will be included for us to review. Yes, thank you.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I hadn't finished with my questions about those who didn't receive funding or received less. For instance, Sea Turtle Patrol has a reduction from the previous year. They were approved for $64,500 and for some reason didn't qualify as much under Turk. So I think it'd be helpful to know how the calculation was different from year to year. So when we look at that information before we make our decision. And then the three that received no funding, my recollection from the committee's discussion is the Gullah Roots Historical Foundation, that project, there's no track record for it, and it's on Daufuskie Island. Do I remember?
Right, its nexus being on Daufuskie Island, because one of the things, if you look at the ATAX law, says that it should be within the nexus of the community. So one of the areas we always look at is whether or not it's physically on Hilton Head Island, and that was not going to be. So the next thing would be to see what they were going to do with their transportation, which was going to be by barge and things like that, did not show that they were going to be doing that from Hilton Head Island, nor did they have any hotels that they had sponsorship or rooms on Hilton Head Island. So that and their budget, first of all, their budget only had maybe $56,000 worth of expenditures on it. And so all of those things combined with the fact that we didn't believe that they had the financial wherewithal to pull this off as a reimbursable fund is the reason why. So that's all in a nutshell for that particular group.
And I think that's helpful. And also Habitat for Humanity, I just wrote down some quick notes. Staff determined it did not qualify under Section 3 and was a worthy project, premature to consider under the new workforce housing subsection under the statute. That Mr. Gerber reported that the town's going through the process of the housing impact analysis and updating the comp plan. So I think just to point out, there are a couple things here that I think it might be helpful for us to know more information than is included in the staff report. And I'm not picking on you, Mr.
No,
Parker.
again, yes.
But I think it would be helpful for us to have a little bit more information about some of those.
If you can answer, the sea turtle question in a little bit more detail now, if you're able to do that, that would be great. But if not, then we definitely.
Well, again, because I knew that was going to be a question that was going to be asked, is as I'm looking at the budget they produced and as part of their application here today, their total advertising and marketing budget for next year is $40,000. That is basically what it shows for advertisement. There are other expenditures on here, like presenter fees. We don't reimburse presenter fees and things like that. Most of the rest of the expenses were shown as office expenses. So without a breakdown exactly how that money comes in is to be spent as a group, we rely then on the staff to tell us exactly. I do my own Turk calculations to the extent that I can read the numbers, and I disagree with staff at times. I'm more conservative when I come up with the Turk numbers than they are, but to that extent I will, because they say, and rightfully so, that a group can change its budgets, can do a budget change and shift funds throughout a year as long as they do it correctly. But that's, in a nutshell, that was the thing we look at are the expenditures for promotion. There really didn't see any general event expense, $2,000. So really didn't see any to justify the full $70,000, basically what it came down to on that one in particular.
Becker?
Just following up on that, I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but are there opportunities for, if something was misaligned, perhaps inaccurate information was put in, for an edit to be done and resubmitted?
We told them that if they had difficulty, as a group, we tried, because normally we're still getting financial information less than 24 hours before presentation or even before our final submission. We asked the groups that unless they had an issue where their fiscal year or something ended and they didn't have their final reports, that we wanted everything on the date on September 4th this year. Unless they had a problem. If they had an issue, simply put that in the application and supply it later. We worked with what we received on September 1st. I know this is a group that's worked in the past with city staff, and I think, again, we always encourage everybody to call if they have issues. They can call the city staff, town staff, and have those questions answered by members of the finance department, because they understand this a lot better than we do.
I think it's important to emphasize that again, is that the staff is there to assist.
Yes.
You know, can assist.
It always comes down to how can we help you? That's the question. You give us as much information as you can, even more than you really need to, because more information is better than no information. And so if people need to, people need to break down their budgets more, or even that, please do so. I mean, now it's a little, I mean, I know it's late for this year, but it's also the opportunity, I think, if that entity would come and make their point to this council, we as a organization, as a committee, would have no objection to this council overriding our recommendation if it could be shown that there's need for it. And again, we make our decisions based on what we see at the time. And I know this council in the past very reluctantly, and very few times, has overridden our recommendations. We enjoy the trust that the council gives us and the town gives us, but we understand at times that there are reasons to vary from our recommendation, and we don't, it doesn't hurt our feelings. Just put it that way.
Thank you.
Mr. Fluker, for the benefit of the audience, would you explain what TURC is?
TURC is the tourism, it's a tourism, what are the?
Expenditure Review Committee.
Yeah, yes, it's a state committee, Tourism Expenditure Review Committee. And they don't actively rule on things, but they've got a list of things they've done in the past. And if there's a problem with it, I know the town has to submit afterwards, submits everything to TURC. It's reviewed after the fact, so to speak. But they don't do any beforehand reviews. So all we can deal with is a track record of what they've allowed for in the past and what they've ruled on previously.
Mr. Stanford.
Thank you. Jimmy, thank you for the hard work that you put in and that your committee puts into this. I've attended these meetings and I see the detail that you have to get into, and that hard work is appreciated and produces a good work product. Sometimes we have to review it, and you understand that, and we understand that. The purpose of this meeting is just to announce these recommendations. It's not to approve anything. But I think most of us are aware that the state law now allows a portion of ATAX funds to go to workforce housing. When are we going to consider that?
So there's a process that has to go through. They have to become an affiliated agency with the town. So there's a process that it's going to go through, which will be coming forward. Some of those discussions in December. Go ahead, Mark. But in December and then a little bit further thereafter.
What we just received, I think is very important. We received, thank you to Curtis's help and Senator Davis's help, a pretty specific Attorney General opinion on how to use ATAX dollars. The South Carolina code that as amended for ATAX didn't really prescribe the specific details on process, but more of the what and can we use it. We have a good AG opinion. Josh Gruber, our deputy town manager, will go over that opinion at the next Finance and Administrative Committee. Well, November? Yes. Well, whatever the date is. I believe Alex just said November 14th, F&A committee meeting. I anticipate a lot of the asks for housing to come through to us after that. I think it's really important that we understand how to use it. It's not just a matter of ask and receive. There are several steps we need to take. There's a housing study There's a comp plan amendment, and we are working on all that work right now, anticipating that deployment of funds, whether it be internal to our own housing programs or external to those housing stakeholder asks.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Thank you. Mr. Ames? I'm good for now. We'll probably have some more questions a little bit deeper as we have a chance to look at this before our next meeting, so.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. New business, consideration of a resolution to approve the fire rescue strategic plan. Chief Blankenship.
Good evening. Chris Blankenship, Fire Chief for the record. Tonight we're going to go over with you our 2024 to 2026 strategic plan. And I want to start off by just saying that Fire Rescue's had a strategic plan in some way or shape or form since 2020 or since 2001. It's very much a part of our accreditation. And this is not my plan, this is our plan. This is a community-driven strategic plan. And I'd be remiss to say I got Christopher Osterman, my battalion chief of strategic planning, here with me tonight, and he developed this, he did everything. This is as much his plan as it is mine. So I just want to thank him for putting this all together for us. So we'll start off the importance of Fire Rescue strategic plan. It's to outline our challenges and opportunities for our organization, allows us to be proactive rather than reactive, provides an opportunity for the community to collaborate with Fire Rescue. It aligns with our commitment to continuous process improvement as part of our CIPSE accreditation model. It assists with maintaining and improving our current ISO rating, which we're currently an ISO rating of 2. It aligns with the town strategic plan and our key community goals. Our process began back in April of 2023. We started out with external stakeholder feedback. We had community members had the option to complete an online survey, or we held 2 in-person sessions. Participants were asked questions related to their expectations of fire rescue, their concerns, service priorities, and additional comments. And we had 86 total community members participate, which is about double what we had 5 years ago when we last did this. So that was good for us. We also had an internal stakeholder feedback session. Had an online survey was sent out to all fire rescue personnel. We had 50 email responses, but we also had 30 people participate in the 2-day in-person session. We reviewed our fire rescue's mission, vision, and values, as well as development of our new goals and objectives. We came up with, for our next 3 years, 3 strategic initiatives, staffing, development, and community outreach. And we reviewed our mission, visions, and values and decided to leave them as they were for now. So our first strategic initiative was staffing. Our goal is to create an appropriate staffing model to fulfill the needs of fire rescue and best serve our community. And we'll do that by evaluating our current staffing model based on our community risk and historical data. We'll identify our recruitment and retention challenges that we've been having for the last few years now. We'll develop an appropriate staffing model, and that doesn't necessarily mean adding people. That's just how we deploy our resources out in the field. And we'll implement and evaluate a new staffing model to ensure the needs are met. So these also fall into the town strategic goals of the workforce housing framework. We know is going to be part of this staffing initiative with getting people to want to come work here, having a place to live. Assess the alternative revenue funding. We have access to grants. We have SAFER grants and we have an AFG grant. So our staffing would fall under the SAFER grant. So we can ask for federal assistance to help with that, and create a culture of high organizational performance, obviously. And our strategic goal 83 in the towns is implement our fire rescue strategic plan. Development, this is our goal is to enhance personal growth and professional development to improve service delivery to our community. We'll analyze the effectiveness of developmental programs and strategies, develop and enhance our programs to meet those needs, and we'll implement those into new programs. Again, going down to the strategic levels, this is the AFG grants, which we apply for every year. We are successful and not successful about every other year of getting these. I will say in the last year, we've gotten about $1.5 million in grants to help with these initiatives. So we're always out there looking for other funding opportunities and have been very successful here lately. And our last goal, which I'm going to touch on this a little bit more in the next slide because we're already doing this, is our community outreach, maximize community outreach through the enhancement of programs and partnerships. We'll analyze our current community outreach programs and partnerships for effectiveness, develop new ones, and implement those new programs. So with that being said, in the last budget, you guys approved 2 new positions that I was able to bring 2 captains from the line up to administration and develop a new division of our community outreach. That's Captains BJ Ferguson and Lee Jenkins. They have already been instrumental. They hit the ground running July 1 with this, and without even looking at it at a strategic level, they have done so much. I just kind of wanted to highlight some of those things that they've already been out there doing. So the town's 360-40 community picnic, we kind of kicked off the introduction to that division at that event. So we had 400 introductions made, and they have been actively recruiting potential candidates for Fire Rescue's 2024 hiring process. We implemented a program with Hilton Head Elementary called Red Hot Readers Program. This is a literacy program through a partnership with School of the Creative Arts to allow fire rescue personnel to make connections and read to the next generation. We're actively doing that every Friday. The Heritage Academy Professional Leadership Series, providing students with a comprehensive understanding of leadership, life skills, and how they can make a positive impact in their community. So we're out there mentoring as well as, letting people know what we do, recruiting along the way. Hispanic Heritage Month, we spotlighting members of our organization and their culture, participate in the Hispanic Heritage Pep Rally at the School of the Creative Arts. New partnerships with NOC, Boys and Girls Club, focusing on safety, education, and career opportunities within the community that they live. And coming soon, we're implementing our ride-along program. We're going to allow students, citizens, and healthcare personnel to experience fire rescue and the services provided to our community firsthand with our personnel. So those are kind of some of the things we're already doing, but as we get into that strategic goal, we're going to dive deep, throw a committee together, and look at what else we can do out there. So the implementation for our plan, to be successful within an established timeframe, Fire Rescue must be able to tie all efforts back to one of 3 previously mentioned initiatives. Potential efforts outside of the established initiatives will provide a foundation for our next strategic plan. So this is the first time we've done a 3-year strategic plan. We've always done 5-year strategic plans which aligned with our accreditation model. However, if you look at our last 2, Hurricane Matthew, the pandemic, it always interrupts. So we're looking at taking a broader picture and view and outlook and bringing it back into some very specific goals so we can try to really delve into them and get them accomplished. Budgeting during the planning session for our upcoming fiscal year, as we always do, all requests will correlate back to one of our initiatives. And then our resiliency planning. Fire Rescue has identified potential roadblocks and possible risks that will prevent achievement of these goals. With each initiative, project managers will have the tools to identify and mitigate the potential roadblocks. So with that, quick and easy. Take any questions?
So,
You have a question? Chief, well done. What percent of your expenses, your budget, comes from sources not paid by the public through direct property taxes?
Through direct property tax, I know Mark can probably answer this better than me, but I know we use ATAX for stuff.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll have to look that up. It's a considerable amount of ATAX and other type uses.
That's why I was bringing it up. I just want the public to understand that probably 5% of your budget comes from that grant that you got. There's ATAX, there's hospitality, and so on and so forth. So I just think it's important information for the public.
And I will say that our operating budget outside of salary and benefits is almost fully funded by the revenue we take in on EMS. So our EMS revenues are fantastic. And
Let's have that be a part of some public information
yep, it's part of my annual report every year too.
in a concise form for the public's digestion. Thank you.
Mr. Alfred.
Chief, do you have established response times for various of the 7 stations or by type of incident?
We do, actually, so by planning zones in our mid-year and our annual report, to the Public Safety Committee. We do publish all those things. Those are standards that are set through our accreditation process. So it's not by specific station, it's by call type. So we do medical calls, structure fires, and the different levels of those. But yes, we do have standards for call processing time, turnout time, and response time.
I hope in your next presentation to the committee that those can be highlighted.
It will, absolutely. In my end of year annual report to the Public Safety Committee, they are very much in there.
Thank you, Chief.
Stanford, hang on, I'm gonna come back to you last, Tammy.
Thank you. Tammy, you go first. Ladies first.
No, I was just going to follow up on this conversation. Thank you, Glenn. And yes, I wanted to let everyone know that Chief and his staff came before Community Service and Public Safety and gave a full report and has a number of the statistics that you're asking for clearly spelled out in there. And I'm sure that we can get you a copy so that you can have that. Continue to have all of our support. We moved the recommendation for approval from Community Service Public Safety onto Town Council with a unanimous vote, but I can get you that data if you want.
If I just wanted to say thank you to you, thank you to your team. I feel safe here. I think everyone in the room here feels safe because we have the umbrella of protective services from fire rescue. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Show me the lion where I'm going to walk in and be first. Thanks, Chief. I heard your report at Community Services and Public Safety along with your other staff members and appreciate all your work. I like, as I said, I like the 3-goal focus. I like to keep it simple and to stay focused. And thanks for adding and pointing out the link to the town strategic plan. I think that's very helpful. I think I also asked about the tying into the budget, so thanks very much for adding that today, and well done, and you certainly have my approval.
Listened.
Mr. Brown.
Chief has been doing a good job listening. I wanted to also thank you for your effort and your team's effort along the way. This is more of a statement that this is a 3-year strategic plan. And I think Chief and his staff are saying out loud that, hey, look, we know that there's an expectation of a level of service here on Hilton Head, and here are the items we need to accomplish to sustain that. And to follow up on Mr. Ames' comment earlier, we have to understand that that may cost. In areas where they have received grant funding in the past, it may not be available in the next 3 years. So I think we need to be conscious of that as we're moving forward if we want to continue that level of service. So job well done, and thank you.
Very good point, Mr. Brown. Ms. Becker, would you like to make a motion to move this forward?
I would. I would like to move the Fire and Rescue 2024-2026 strategic plan forward for full approval by the Town Council of Hilton Head Island.
For a second.
Second.
Mr. Offred. So all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. So moved 7-0.
Thank you all.
You. Next, consideration of 2024 meeting schedule. Josh?
Good evening again. Kim's in the process of pulling it up. Just to tee this item up, we always look ahead towards next year's meeting schedule. Staff has prepared a proposal of dates. It was included in your packets this evening. This list has been scrubbed to make sure that we're not conflicting with any other major events, that we're not scheduling something the Tuesday before Christmas, kind of things like that, any kind of religious holidays. So what you have before you should be hopefully something that we'll be able to stick to through the course of next year. And wanted to present it to you all for discussion and consideration this evening.
Any discussion, any considerations?
Really, one quick question. So I know we had some glitches this past year with Jewish holidays, religious holidays. And so you have looked at all kind of religious calendars. I know I get a lot on my personal calendar at home. So that, so far as you know, we're not conflicting with any recognized religious calendars.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Make a motion.
Please.
Other comments? Okay, go ahead.
Please.
I move that we approve the 2024 meeting schedule for town council and the standing committees of the council.
Second?
Second, we've got a first and second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And that passes 7-0. We have a need to go into executive session, Mr. Orlando.
Yes, we do. As shown on items 11A, B, and C on the town council meeting agenda.
I move council go into executive session for the reasons cited by the town manager.
Second?
Got a first and a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. 7-0. We're now in executive session. Come out of executive session.
Second.
Okay, we've got a first and second. All in favor, please signify by your approval by raising your right hand. Mr. Ames, do we have any actions coming out of executive session?
There was no action taken by council in executive session.
Seeing that, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a first and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. So moved. We are adjourned.